Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Realtor Success Podcast. My name is Jordan Brown. I would love to connect with you on Instagram at JordanSellsATX. Listen, man, we've been cranking out some episodes here recently with some absolute killers that are getting it done in 2026. I hope you've been finding those valuable, finding those nuggets that you can implement into your business today. Now, listen, the guy that I have on for this episode, I'm super excited to jam out with. This guy is the reason that I am where I am today, the reason for changing the way that I view the opportunities within the business. So I'm hoping that you tune in, you take it in with an open heart, open mind, and this could be the conversation that changes the trajectory of your career. So if anything that you hear is interesting and you want to learn more about what these offerings are, what it's like to partner with us, I'm going to have a link in the description of this video where you can book your private one-on-one call with us. We'd love to learn more about your business and how we can best add some fuel to the fire and take you to those new heights in your career. So this guy is one of my sponsors here at our brokerage. He has over 125,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel where he trains agents. 125,000 is an absolutely insane number for someone like myself who only has 700 and some odd subscribers on mine. The thought of having 125,000 is absolutely mind-blowing. This guy has trained agents. He provides, in my opinion, more value on his free YouTube channel than most brokerages offer when you're partnered with them. He's over in Canada. He was a top producing agent at his brokerage before identifying that there was a different way to make money within the business. He now operates and trains our agents here at the Wolfpack. We're so excited to welcome Mr. Mike Sherrard, my brother from another border. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man. Thanks so much for the intro. I'm super excited. I think you and I have been on quite a journey together, and one that's going to connect and relate with a lot of people. So I'm excited to dive in and jam out and talk about the future of this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I think that before we even get started into what's happening today, I want to take us back before 125,000 subscribers, before being the fastest growing organization within our brokerage in 2025. Let's go back to Mike starting off as an agent. Different time, right? Like that was how many years ago? When did you get into the business?
Yeah, I got licensed February of 2019.
Wow. Okay. Tell me about that first little bit right before COVID happened too. So that must have been an interesting.
Or actually, sorry, 2017. But yeah, like it was, as you said, back in 2017, it was a totally different industry, and also, I think everything happens for a reason. And I got started, like for people that don't have context, being in Calgary, it's an oil and gas town. Everything is based on oil and gas, and that crashed in 2015, and so. When I got licensed in 2017, only 27% of listings were selling. There was 14 months of inventory, 73 average days on market, and it was an absolute mess. And I loved it. And I think that's where we always have to look at where the opportunity lies. And I think so many people will look at the market as a defining factor of whether or not they're going to succeed. Whereas I like to look at the difficult markets as the easiest time to succeed because everybody's taking their eyes off the prize. You know, when things get difficult, that's when people are, slowing down. That's where they're overthinking things. That's where they're fearful. That's where they're riddled with self-doubt, anxiety, and all of these different things that are taking them away from doing the activities that are going to get them clients. And so for me, I came into this industry, back in 2017 when I only had, $2,500 in my bank account. I had nothing to do but do the work to change my life because there was no fallback plan. Like this was it for me. And that's where, the day I got licensed, I went out and I door knocked in -10. It was snowing. It was dark because it was the winter. And I got 2 listings at $700,000 a pop. And my script was terrible. I looked terrible. Like everything that you would overthink was present. But for me, there was no option. It was either I do it and I succeed, or I figure out that this isn't going to work. But I think that's where we could dive deeper into things, but my mentality in my first year was I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I want to be able to look at the end of that first year and reflect on it and say, whether I achieve my goals or not, I wanted to be able to look back and say, I genuinely did everything I could have done. And if it didn't work out, at least I had the confidence that I tried. I didn't want to be able to look back and say, well, I could have done more of this. I could have prospected more. I could have put out more content. I'm like, this is a Hail Mary. I'm going all in, and we're going to do whatever the heck it takes. So that's how it got started.
Yeah, well, one, I mean, you just mentioned it's the middle of winter and minus 10 degree. That's, for my Texas brain to comprehend negative 10 degrees is kind of crazy. But that's almost the action that's required if you want to radically change your life. I think we get often a little caught up as new agents, and I'm maybe projecting a little bit here, of real estate almost being the backup plan versus the focus. And if you treat it like a hobby, you're going to get hobby results. And the opportunity that real estate presents is that it can radically change your life. It can radically change your income and your circumstance. It changes the way that you perceive time and value and money and the ways that you can generate wealth. I know for me, whenever I first got into the industry, I only sold 3 homes my first year. I didn't feel like I was in a supportive environment. I didn't have the resources to really, train up and be an agent in 2020. And my results reflected that. And I can imagine if that's the track that you're on when you're listening to this and you're going, man, like I don't know if I can do this, because I only netted $18,000 after all my splits and fees and et cetera. And I was like, man, how do people even make it in this business? But then I have an honest look in the mirror and I look back and I go, was I that person going out and door knocking in negative 10 degree weather? No, I wasn't mentally there yet. I was the comfort, I've got my license and people are just going to want to come and work with me. That doesn't work if you want to radically change your life. So I love that you mentioned, I said, I'm going to spend this entire year working my butt off so that when I look back, I can say, hey, I left nothing on the table. I didn't leave it to happenstance that I was going to be successful. I just love that, dude. You went out, you got $1.4 million in listings just from door knocking. And I mean, who the heck is doing that these days, right? It seems like all these newer agents, they want this comfortable ride into success, and it doesn't always work out that way. So tell me a little bit more about kind of those first few years, right? So you get started, you're doing these door knocking cold callings, or you're not cold calling, are you?
I tried everything. And I think that's where, I'm a huge advocate of figuring out what works for you. At the end of the day, as we kind of talked about, when you're a new agent, knowing that real estate agents in general only have to do 3 things. They have to get clients, service clients, and nurture clients. Well, if you have no clients, you got nothing to service and nurture. The only thing you should be doing every second of the day is getting clients. And so, dude, I did literally everything. So let me give you a breakdown. In my first 2 months, I cold called pretty much every day for the first month and a half. I'll get into why I stopped. I door knocked every single day. I went to, on average, 3 networking events every single week. And I just went on meetup.com and Eventbrite. And dude, I found anything that was going to put me in front of people. Like, for example, to the extent that I remember I went to one of these meetings. It was a local coffee meetup. And I was 24, 25 years old in my first year. And the average person at this meetup was 60 years old. And they were all retired. And we went to a little local coffee shop to have coffee and introduce ourselves. If you had a pulse, I wanted to talk to you. And so that's where it's so many people get in their head where they have this I think sense of entitlement of I'm better than these activities. And
Yes.
my mentality is I am piss broke and I'm here to change my life and my family's life. I have zero ego. I'm doing whatever it takes. So I went to coffee meetups with seniors. I went to investor meetups. I went to local entrepreneur anything I could do, I did. And so that included cold calling. The only quirk here is in Canada, especially where I live, it's illegal to prospect FSBOs and expireds. And so when you're cold calling, It is real cold calling, meaning you are geofencing an entire community, cold calling them. There's like in the States, I consider it warm calling. People say cold calling. You're calling people who've raised their hand. We're calling
Right.
people that don't want to talk to you ever. And so I did get business from cold calling, but what gets measured gets managed. And what I found is that when you do what others aren't willing to do, you get the results that they're not going to get. And so what I found is that when you're on a cold call, you have no idea if that person is old, young, experienced, not, if you like how they look, if you like how they don't, if you don't like their communication style, like you have no way to connect with them. And so I said, okay, if I'm going to spend X amount of time connecting with people, I want to choose the avenue that's going to give me the greatest chance of connecting with them. And so what I found is that people are a lot more likely to hang up on you than they are to slam a door in your face, because whether people want to accept it or not, most people are actually genuinely pretty good humans, right? And I think there's this huge fear that everybody out there is going to, send their dogs after you and slam the door and yell at you. Like, most people are pretty good people. And so what I found is that when I door knocked, I could build that relationship. I could show up with energy. They could see my body language. We could connect a little bit more. And knowing most people are actually great, they were much softer in person because there is that human element there. And so for me, what I did is in my first month and a half, I did literally everything. And then after a month and a half, I looked at saying, okay, what's actually bringing me the greatest return on my time invested? And I was getting more leads with cold calling, but then I would get way less appointments and I would convert way less. Whereas when I was door knocking, I crushed it, dude. Like, I absolutely crushed it. And so I put my eggs in that basket. And so I said, okay, I need to do whatever's free because I don't have money. And so I door knocked every day, and I made a commitment for my first 1,000 days to post every day on Instagram to do something free. And so that's what started to get the ball rolling for me, is just the consistent, relentless action on the simple things that actually work.
Yeah, you did. I think you nailed it. There is a sense of entitlement, which is so strange to me, that when you're starting, there's a tendency to feel like you're owed something just because you got your license. No, this is still this is the most entrepreneurial venture, one of the most entrepreneurial ventures you could ever go on. And it is completely up to you to basically pave the way for your own success. No one owes you a transaction. No, you haven't earned anything yet. You especially like Suman, one of our partners, put it so beautifully. He said that if my uncle goes out and gets his license to do, LASIK eye surgery or like LASIK procedure, I'm probably not going to be the first person or the first 10 that he does. But once there's a proof of concept, I might be the 100th person that goes and gets that operation done. But just because he's my family doesn't mean I'm going to jump in line to be the first person. And in this way, real estate is a huge milestone for so many people. And with the fact that the average person knows, on average, 6 or 7 realtors already, you haven't done the legwork to differentiate yourself yet in people's minds. So I love that you said, I tried everything and I measured it. I wanted to see, for my efforts going in, what was the output that I was getting. So along the way, knowing now that you are in this YouTube realm here, 125,000 subscribers, what was that shift? What happened in your mind where you identified that social media could actually be a more effective use of your time, and from an input and output perspective?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like, I always just look at consumer behavior, and I'm a consumer. And so when I was an engineer studying for a real estate license, like, I was consuming other people's YouTube content, and that's how I learned. And so for me, when I started to actually get real tangible results with my own business through Instagram, through eventually running Facebook ads, which was crazy, and also through door knocking, I started to think, okay, well, there's probably a younger or a less experienced version of me out there that would probably want to see what I'm doing, right? And so I had no idea that I wanted to get into this coaching space, and no idea that I was going to eventually join a brokerage that would allow me to capitalize on that in a different capacity. I just wanted the help. And I said, okay, I benefited from these other people. Maybe people could benefit from me. And so I just started sharing everything that I did that worked for my business. None of it was based on theory. This was my cold call script. This was my door knock script. This is what I posted on Instagram. These were the Facebook ads I ran. And I started that around 2018. And again, what gets measured gets managed. I started looking at the feedback and then the analytics. And no surprise, nobody really gave a shit about learning the cold calling and door knocking scripts. They all wanted to learn the social media side of things. And so they started asking for more, and the views were way higher. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to keep putting out more content based on what people actually like and want more of, which was the social side. And as I got better, so did the content I was sharing. And so that was all just based on me wanting to genuinely help people for my first 3 years. Because again, I had no idea a brokerage switch was coming, COVID was coming, any of that type of stuff. And so it was really interesting because I knew from day one that if you have a strong personal brand, you have a massive unfair competitive advantage compared to anybody else. Because if you look at all the role models that we look up to, that we study, that we model, the Gary V's, the Tony Robbins, the Ed Milet's, whoever you look up to in your life, they have a brand. And so success leaves clues. And that's where I didn't want to overthink anything. I just wanted to do what was proven to work 100% of the time for every other person. And so it was a really interesting journey because I started to put out that content and I didn't get any results for 3 years because I didn't have a program. I didn't have any kind of direction. It was just this mentality that in some way, at some point, this is going to work out. And so I went all in on it. And then that's when, 2019 came, radical changes happened with my perspective. And we could talk about that, of why I decided to explore different opportunities when it came to the vehicle that I was in.
Yeah, I'd love to get into that because you were doing well where you were. Mm-hmm. So tell me about what was it that got in front of you? What message hit? What was it that opened your mind up and was attractive about the model and changing the way that you could pursue earning revenue or being paid or compensated from where you were? Because again, you were doing well. And some people who are listening are like, "Oh, I'm pretty cozy where I'm at." What was it about that? What did that shift look like for you?
Yeah, and I had the classic picture perfect example of why people don't switch, because I was the poster child of my past brokerage. I was best friends with the broker. I got all the $1 million listings through my marketing strategies, but then I brought him to co-list with me to bring his 19 years of experience. And so they gave me an incredible split. They gave me marketing budget. I had everything that you could ever want from a local brokerage. But then it got to the end of 2019, which was the end of my third year, 2017, 2018, 2019. And it was October, November, where you're kind of starting to think next year, okay, what am I going to do for 2020? And I just remember thinking the only thing I can do is more deals. But I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. I have no life. And this is just, taking an entrepreneurial perspective. As an entrepreneur, you should want to make as much money as possible from the time you're investing into your business. But here's the quirk, is I was in a very difficult market where we have, I'll put a disclaimer out here because realtors can, charge whatever commission they want. But the general average that people charge here is 3% total, 1.5% per side. Not 3% per side like you get in the States, 1.5%. So I was sitting there saying, I'm getting 50% of the commission in Canadian dollars I'm swimming uphill here. Even if I do the same number of deals, I'm making half, minus 30% currency exchange. that all my friends were making in the States. That doesn't sound very entrepreneurial to me. And so that's where I started to say, okay, I could do more deals, but that's going to require more time. Maybe there's a different vehicle. And that's where I decided, okay, I'm going to start working on a course because people keep asking me for it. It wasn't like I wanted to create this just out of nowhere and that's going to be my new direction. I was getting so many comments on my YouTube videos of, we want more. Do you have a course? That I said, okay, maybe that could be an avenue I'll try. I'll create a course. But then I started opening my mind up to EXP because people were contacting me with it. And I started to realize that I was getting all of these agents watching my YouTube content and following me on Instagram, wanting to learn what I was doing on Instagram to close deals. But they were from all these other different markets. And I didn't want to be a one-on-one coach because the goal was to create leverage, to actually get time back and not spend more of it. And so I just started to realize that maybe there's a different vehicle that allows me to create more leverage based on what I'm already doing. And so that's where I decided to say, okay, let me look into this a little bit deeper. And it kind of blew my mind because I was turning a blind eye to it for so many years because typical story, there's a few bad apples that explain it the wrong way or a selfish way or a way that doesn't land with you. And I had a totally different bad perspective on it. And so I looked at it.
I was the same way.
Yeah.
I considered myself a never EXP guy for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. And then I realized like, okay, I'm on an 80-20 split over here, but over here I'm on an 80-20 split. And based on my production, I would have got my $16,000 cap back. Well, over here, that cap never came back. Okay, so I'm automatically making more money for doing what I'm already doing. And then I started saying, okay, well, now you're not geographically restricted to just your local market. You can start to create partnerships with people in every market, and they can benefit from my training. And so I don't have to coach them one-on-one. I can create economies of scale. And so that's where I just started to realize like, wow, not only is this getting compensated more for doing exactly what you would do at 100% of other brokerages, but then I started to learn about the willability of the revenue share, about the fact that you retain it even after you stop closing deals. So there's an exit strategy because at the end of 2019, I'm only 3 years in, but it doesn't take longer than 3 years to put 2 and 2 together and realize that if you're at a traditional brokerage, you're literally just going to have to close deals for the rest of your life and trade time for money. So I didn't want to be that typical agent that learned that lesson 20 years into the business. I wanted to just have an honest conversation with myself and realize that's the truth. That's the reality. Nothing will change it. So I can change. And so I did. And so that's where I made a change. And timing is everything. And that's where it was really interesting because 3 years of putting out content, getting no results from it on YouTube, no idea how I would get results from it. And then the right opportunity aligns to say, okay, I can leverage this in a different way. Then a week after I joined EXP, COVID hit, and everybody was trapped inside of their house. And the only thing that they could do was leverage social media to build their brand. And I had 3 years of content that people were now finally caring about. I just created the program that people could now invest into. And that same program I could give for free to people that partner with me. And so I just like to share that because so many people get all in a flap if they don't get results after 3 months. I didn't get results after 3 years of recording at 4 a.m. at my old brokerage because I didn't have an office to record in, putting out 2-3 videos a week while doing top producer level production, and just having the sheer confidence that at some point this will work out. I don't know how, but it will. And what a surprise, as for anybody, not just me, it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, to go from this leap of faith, and like you mentioned, I know so many agents who give up on something when it doesn't work the first time, much less the 3 years worth of time. Like, you never know when that opportunity is going to pay off. It's just the consistency aspect of it. When you build a library, like one of the Alex Hermosi quotes that Reza, who I had on this podcast, mentioned is, work so hard that it would be unreasonable for you to not be successful. And I think of your story in that way. You did the hard work to become a top producer, identified an opportunity to then gain leverage to kind of diversify income here a little bit as well, so that you could get a little bit of your life back. And I feel like I mean, one, it's paid off. And two, you took like taking the risk. I think of it and I'm like, in my head as a person who identifies himself as a never exp guy whenever I first started, something about the revenue share model I think scares people who don't understand it. So myself, as someone who identifies as, before I came over, someone who was kind of scared by this revenue share model, in my head I was sitting there going, these people just want to get rich off of me. That's essentially what my biggest concern was. And then you kind of look into it, and I made a video about this. It's kind of funny that we look at traditional real estate teams and don't think of it that way, but yet revenue share gets this weird look about it. And you're actually making less money per year per agent than you would on if it was a traditional team. So I'd love to kind of maybe help dispel some of those myths. And like, now that you've been in it, like, why did you end up at EXP? Because there's a bunch of these other kind of revenue share model style brokerages, lots of spin-offs of EXP, as I like to call them. And in my opinion, if you're an agent coming in 2026 and beyond, if you're not joining a brokerage that offers something like that, I almost feel like you're doing yourself a disservice. So maybe go into a little bit of that, and then what ultimately, like, why are you still at EXP versus some of these other spin-offs that have come around that are kind of attractive to anyone looking at a revenue share model perspective?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I had those same reservations about revenue share, and I think it's because of how people communicate it, right? Because, I was a strong producer, and so the direction and the angle that they took really made me feel like you're just approaching me because you see me as a cash cow. Like, and that all stemmed from them talking about how great it is for them and sharing their revenue share. And nobody, except for when I decided to actually join, took the time to say, okay, here's what it can do for you. Here's how this model can help you, right? Here's how it creates leverage for you. And I think that's a me versus you, a selfish versus a selfless approach of explaining the opportunity. And so when you start to look at revenue share, as you alluded to, like, people have this bad reputation about recruiting. Well, how does a Remax brokerage or a KW or Royal LePage or Coldwell Banker, how does a brokerage get you? They recruit you. How does the team get you? They recruit you. Recruiting is done in corporate, in real estate, like, it's done everywhere. So everybody's already doing it, right? But then we start to look at how it's actually portrayed. And I think, just like you said, like, a team leader charges an arm and a leg to give you value, a huge percent of your commission. And they're making a living off you, right? Whereas the most you can make from somebody at EXP when they cap, for example, at a year is like a minimum of $1,400. Like, that doesn't change or impact my life at all. But this model can impact yours, and you get thousands of dollars of training and support and mentorship for free. And it's an exchange of value. And I think that's where people really have to look at this overall picture and realize the reason why it can happen is just by the fact that the brokerage is cloud-based. They dropped all their overhead. They reduced expenses in order to give more back to the agents, because that money is getting shared at every brokerage regardless. It's just at a traditional brokerage, that money's going directly to the people that paid to get into the brokerage franchise, which is the franchise owners. But at a cloud-based brokerage, we become the owners and we get that money back. And so it's just a complete misunderstanding, because people tend to put their guard up, put a wall up, and not be open to seeing things through a different lens. And then, so for me as an entrepreneur, as you alluded to, there's all these different models out there that all have some sort of a spin-off of EXP with their own special sauce. But we're doing this for the rest of our career, hopefully. I think that's the mentality that you should have, is that I want to be doing this forever. And if you're going to be doing it forever, you want to be in the best vehicle possible that's going to be sustainable, that's going to give you the opportunity, the best opportunity that you can have, and not have to bounce around all over the place, disrupt your business, and make these radical shifts and changes that throw you off track. And so for me, like being an engineer, I just take a very data-driven mathematical approach because unfortunately, it is what it is, but people are emotional creatures. And so they tend to make very emotional decisions. And they're going to say, okay, well, like this person's over here and I really love this person and I love that person. And it's like, okay, that's great, but this is for you. This is for you and your family. And so for me and my family, I wanted to put my eggs in the basket that is going to be the most sustainable, the most proven track record, and have the biggest opportunity to get me to where I want to be without the least amount of disruption. And that happened to be EXP. And again, because I talk about these models all the time, I'm very familiar with the nuances of every single model. And one of the things that I am very honest about is if you are a successful person, you have the traits of somebody that would be successful, you would be successful at any of these brokerages. Like I could leave here tomorrow and rebuild it at any of these other brokerages, like in a fraction of the time. So knowing that you have the flexibility of options, then the goal should just be, how could you put yourself in the best vehicle, right? Knowing that you'll crush it at any of them, and it's not like I could make a switch over here and it's magically going to be a better opportunity, right? You're going to do well at all of them. So you might as well join the one that's going to be that best opportunity and give you the most leverage. And so for me, that was EXP. We're open in the most countries. We have the best, financials. We have, in my opinion, the best leadership. We have the best training, right? We have the most sustainability. Like there's all these things that are mathematically factual. And so I wanted to put my eggs in that basket. And there was nothing somebody could do to ever get me to change my mind on that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right on the head. Like I looked at it from, if I'm going to go and build somewhere, and I think that also speaks to an issue that we have in today's kind of clout chasing, brokerage hopping agent, is that if you never stick somewhere to really build, you're never going to get the benefits that brokerage had to offer you in the first place. So if you were to talk to someone today who is like, you know what, the opportunity is past, right? Like EXP started in 2009. They've got like over 80,000 agents now. Like it seems like that opportunity has sailed on. What would you say to that person? Because as we know, your organization was the number one fastest growing organization in all of EXP in 2025. And you weren't in on the ground level. You were not around in the industry in 2009. So I think it speaks to the fact that good things can happen, even now.
100%. Like so many people, and I got this on so many calls when I was talking with agents where they were like, Mike, you were early. I'm like, early relative to what? I was agent 56,000 and something. Like I was not early, right? The people in the first 2,000 were early. I was not. I just decided, like my mentality when I joined here, and this has been my mentality with my YouTube channel, with my production business, like my mentality with everything, is that if you over deliver on value compared to anybody else, you will succeed and you'll have an unfair advantage and the results will align with that. And so that's what I did when I joined, is I audited what everybody else was doing. And I said, how could I provide more? How could I provide better? And, we're even looking at the numbers now, and I was the fastest growing person back then in 2020. Well, Josh in our group, he has outpaced my growth, and he joined at agent 85,000 and something a year and a half ago, right? And so there's waves of opportunity, but I'm also not going to say that those waves continue to come. And so this is where I'm like very honest with people. I think the next 3 to 5 years for anybody that is exploring EXP, you will have life-changing opportunity. And after that, The people that decided to build a foundation, you will change your life forever. The people that decided to not take advantage of the opportunity and dilly-dally around and think that you've just got the luxury of time for the rest of your life, I don't see that opportunity coming again. Why am I saying this? Well, opportunity number one was the ground foundation, the early adopters. Opportunity number two is when I joined. Because when I joined, it was COVID and everybody was now being more open to different opportunities. Cloud-based brokerage, stuck inside your home, can't use your office, kind of aligns. Opportunity number three is what we're seeing right now. And this is not me like putting out this facade of like this magical time that it should just be so great because we want, like, let's look at the facts. Well, what happened is a lot of people, when these spin-off brokerages started to come out, they started to say, okay, well, I'm not succeeding at EXP. I like the idea of this model. I'm going to go over here because I'm earlier. And what happened is they went to the suite of other options and they didn't get what they were promised. It hasn't worked out. The stock has never and will never do what they thought it was going to do. And so they tried it for a couple of years, but they joined at EXP under somebody that maybe they didn't align with. And so now what's happening is we're seeing this mass migration back to EXP, but not under the person they were currently with, under the person they now believe has the most value and will get them to where they want to go. So we're seeing this mass migration back from other cloud-based models, pairing that with the consolidation of traditional models. So you have the Compass massive anywhere acquisition, but a lot of the people at these other brokerages that fall under the anywhere umbrella do not buy into Compass's exclusivity, not on the MLS, not on Zillow rather, mantra of private listings. And so where the heck else are they going to go? Well, now they're looking at these opportunities. And then you have the Real Remax acquisition. And a lot of people at Remax are also saying, hey, now I'm kind of like within reason forced to be a part of this whole cloud-based world, but maybe I don't want to be under that one. Maybe I want to explore options. So now they're open-minded to it. And so we're seeing this massive wave of people coming back to the mothership that, again, has the track record, the financials, the leadership, the training, and also the sponsors that will provide the value that they're looking for. And so this is a huge wave, and we're seeing it in the numbers of a massive opportunity over the next, I believe, 3 to 5 years. And that's why I think this is such a special time, because we're seeing people growing faster now than I did 6 years ago. And I love it.
Yeah, no, that's a great breakdown. And I totally agree. One, from an EXP perspective, the financials just make sense. Like one of the most profitable independent brokerages that are out there. I'm not worried. In my opinion, like I'm not worried about EXP getting bought out. Like we're going to be acquiring companies is the way I look at it. And I can see a future where there's going to be like these joinings of like conglomerates of real estate powerhouses, really, is what I think is going to end up happening. So you're right. I do think that there is a massive opportunity in this 3 to 5 year window where if you want to absolutely change the landscape of what your career could look like and you want to get in on one of these opportunities, like now's the time to do it. And just as a reminder, if you want to explore what these opportunities look like for your business, how it can benefit you, there's a link in the bio where you can book a call with Mike and myself where we can talk about what you're doing now, what this opportunity means for you, the resources that we're going to back you with, in addition to the backing of EXP as the vehicle. So please, we'd love to talk to you. Mike, I'd love to shift over to kind of the tactical things that agents can start implementing in their business. As someone who has gone through scaling a YouTube channel and helping other agents within the real estate space do the same, myself included, I would love to talk about like the opportunities that you see now, because you've called it. You said that I think YouTube is going to be like this thing for realtors, this massive opportunity. And then you've also recently identified that AI, this hot button item that everyone's talking about, even my parents are freaking using AI right now, is going to be like the next YouTube opportunity talk to me a little bit about both. Like what got you, what identified there? Like what are some of the success stories that we've seen? Do you think it's still relevant in 2026 for maybe a newer agent or someone looking to procure clients?
Yeah, definitely. Like even on the YouTube side, like, you look at the data, and even though the NAR data is something like less than 4% of agents are active on YouTube, the reality of it is that's less than 4% have a channel. But when you actually do a search on YouTube or Google, I have never in my life in any market, even the most competitive one, seen more than 10 people actively, properly leveraging YouTube. And so when you're in these markets with 20, 40, 50,000 agents, and you're now competing against 10, and the chances are that they're a different age, race, gender, ethnicity, language, personality type, or niche than you, there almost is no competition. And one of the things that I love best about YouTube is that not only is it very non-competitive, but what we see time and time again is that these platforms continue to update their algorithm and how people are consuming content. So for example, why I'm really leaning into that statement is I've seen people that have like some of the more competitive markets, like my market, Calgary, Toronto in Canada. Then in the States, you've got Denver, Austin, Dallas, Seattle and Tampa, Orlando are some of the more competitive ones. Like there were people that kind of dominated those markets on YouTube for 3 to 5 years, and now they don't show up on any search because these newbies came in and started creating a different style of content that lends itself to how people actually want to consume today. And now they have all of the rankings with less than 50 videos, and they're 6 months into this. And they're taking all the leads from the people that have been doing it for 5 years because they're adapting, and a lot of people become complacent. And so that's where, if you're willing to adapt, if you're willing to be a student of this game and just always keep your finger on the pulse of what's working now, there is no competition. You'll always be able to thrive. And so YouTube is a massive opportunity for agents right now. We're seeing it with the data. Because of a couple things. Number one, massive search behavior, right? So now what we're seeing is that as AI search is becoming more prevalent, these two go hand in hand together, right? Because AI can only recommend what it can find, and AI scrapes natural written language that it can find. Well, what is the most naturally written language that it can scrape? YouTube transcriptions. And so this is where we're seeing YouTube videos now getting recommended by AI. We have Google AI overviews that now recommend an AI overview plus YouTube videos. And so all of the search is catered toward how people want to consume. How do people want to consume? Through video format, right? That's how they want to learn. That's how they want to study. That's how they want to enjoy. And so knowing that that's how consumer behavior is modeled, YouTube is best positioned for it. And so it's a really exciting opportunity right now, blending it with AI and knowing that it's easier than ever. Because, when I got started, when you got started, like we had no AI. So we had to actually know what we're talking about. We didn't have the ability to write scripts. We had to understand the game, how to optimize content and all these different nuances of the platform. And so there was a much greater barrier to entry, which is why I think a lot of people were kind of standoffish about it. Is like, okay, compared to short form content, there's a lot more moving parts when it comes to long form. But now we have the solution to all of those moving parts in seconds because of AI. And so now you don't have to go buy somebody's course. You don't need to get coached by somebody. You could literally know the right prompts to put into Claude or ChatGPT, and it will give you the exact videos based on search behavior in this market right now. It'll give you the optimization to rank it on Google, ChatGPT, and YouTube. It will give you the titles, the thumbnail designs, the descriptions, the keywords, like literally everything. And so we're in this very interesting era where all excuses have been removed. So now it really comes down and you get to see who's just genuinely willing to do it or not. because everything that you got hung up on before is now available at your fingertips for free in seconds. Are you willing to do the work? And so what's going to be really interesting as well, and why I think YouTube is going to continue to thrive, is that AI is an incredible tool, but a lot of people also misuse it. And with the rise of AI getting better, video content done by AI is getting better. However, YouTube knows this. And so YouTube flags content that is created by AI. And people now more than ever are going to chase and crave the genuine, raw, authentic, imperfect content that they can connect with that's humanized. And YouTube is the best place for that. And you're even seeing that with the fact that in the past, the fancy editing and the transitions and the B-roll and the stuff flying all over the screen was what worked, because that kind of showed that you were like an extra level above the rest, because you could do that to your content. You could make it look spicy. But now the fact that AI could do all of that, what's really performing is, are you able to just genuinely deliver a value-driven message that's actually valuable in a human way, in an authentic way that connects with everybody else? And so this is the greatest time that we're ever going to see, because again, changes. A lot of agents are going to lean into the AI style of content because they're lazy, but it's going to decimate and ruin their personal brand, because people don't want perfect. People want connection, not perfection. And YouTube is going to be the platform that's going to continue to help agents thrive.
You nailed it. I have noticed even just on my own channel that, so I hired an editor to take a lot of that workload off of me. But I noticed that even though I felt like I was doing better by putting out a more polished product that did have the B-roll, that did have the flashy captions, the this, that, the transitions and all that, my watch time was going down. And I think there's multiple reasons for that. One, I think everyone was doing it. And so whenever you start blending in with what everyone else is doing, I think of the realtor editing style videos now, or, you know, the house tour videos that, and I know you immediately thought of the same thing, the same style that I'm thinking. Everyone's doing it. And I know, like, it's hard to stand out if you're just blending into whatever trend is happening at the time. And I just noticed that anything I do that is more off the cuff, authentic, unscripted, for some reason, is just performing better right now. It's landing harder because it feels like there's no maybe agenda behind it. There's no, like, you believe it more, and people are craving that connection on video more so now than ever. And I think it's because we went through the time of the highly polished, highly edited, flawless talking paths and everything of that nature. And I've just noticed, like, my videos that are more just like, hey, like, here's what I honestly think about this. Like, off the cuff, like, hey, I was feeling inspired today, I'm going to make a video. Those are performing way better now. So I love that you identified that authenticity, connection is going to outdo perfection. I would love to just pick your brain a little bit about why or which AI you're more leaning into. There's so many these days. There's, you know, I mean, just name them. There's all of them. You got ChatGPT, you got Perplexity, all of the Claude. What is the one, like, if you had to recommend one to maybe build your business around, to focus on as a realtor in 2026 and beyond, what are you leaning into?
Yeah. For me, like, I've always been a huge advocate of the fact that simplicity scales. And so what's happening is, again, like, you're a product of your environment, and a lot of people engineer their environment willingly by choice to be distracting, which is why they complain that they're always distracted and overwhelmed. If you ever complain that you're distracted and overwhelmed, just realize that that is a conscious decision that you chose. It doesn't have to be that way, right? Like, I think it's so funny. It's like, why are you overwhelmed? Because there's so many things to do. Well, who chose to do so many things? Why are you distracted? Because there's so many things. Who decided to look at them? Like, it's, nothing is inherently distracting or overwhelming. You consciously allow that to be the case. Like, I'm never distracted or overwhelmed because I know exactly what I'm doing. I keep it simple, and I stay laser focused on what works for me. Because here's the thing. Everything works if you do the work. And so knowing everything works if you do the work, then just keep it very basic. And so for me, I only use Claude for absolutely everything. Like, is ChatGPT better for some things? Yes. Is Gamma or Manus or any of these other platforms better for some? Yes. But I don't care, because it's never going to be better to the capacity that's actually going to make a difference in your business as a realtor. Would it make a difference if you're like an AI tech company trying to build complex systems and do coding and things like that? Okay, now maybe you have to care about the nuances between the two. But there's not one licensed real estate agent in the world that would inherently see a difference in their business whether they chose one model over another. It will never happen. And so knowing that, then just choose the one, again, similar to EXP, the vehicle. Choose the one that is going to be the most sustainable, with the best options and the best features that will help you achieve the outcomes you're looking to do. And Claude is that one for me, and also for 99% of agents. And that's why I recommend it, because it's got all the tools in one central ecosystem. And so that's the only thing that we're playing with right now, is building out all of our systems on it. And that's where, like, I love the AI. Like, people have this tendency to think that AI is going to like remove the human element from it, but it only does that if you allow it. And so what we really want to look at is the fact that AI actually frees you up to spend more time to do the human element, right? Like, if you look at my business, we've automated a lot of the support, administrative work, planning work, organization, all the stuff that takes a ton of time, that sucks to do, that's annoying, that's frustrating, to now just free up more time for me to create more content, better content, more authentic content. Like, it gives you a superpower to be more human if you use it correctly, right? And so that's where we're loving it, where even if I look at my own business, like, we went from posting 3 times a week on short form to now we're posting 3 times a day. And none of it is AI. It's all me. But that's because I've freed up time to stop doing the things that were taking me away from my zone of genius. So a real estate agent that's properly using artificial intelligence is just going to have way more time to do the human to human connection that you got into the industry because you love it. Right? So it's an incredible opportunity. But for me, I don't look at any of the new AI stuff that comes out, because it's not going to matter, right? Could it do something fancy and fluffy that this other one can't do quite? Yes, of course, but it doesn't matter. And so I'm very focused on, like, the litmus test that I use, Jordan, for everything. And I wish more agents would do this. I ask myself every time I'm going to make a decision of whether or not to explore something, to learn something, to try something, will this make a difference as to whether or not a client works for me or works with me or chooses me? If the answer is no, I ignore it. If the answer is yes, I learn it. And so all of these agents are worrying about all these different things that will literally never be a conscious factor as to whether a client chooses you over another agent. So it doesn't matter. And so I just have a very clear filter on where I've trained myself to say, okay, let's stay laser focused on what works, ignore the rest. And, I think it's worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this tool, this AI, I mean, it's in its infancy, really. It's just kind of started. And what's cool, one thing that I love that you identified with our group is telling people it's starting to make recommendations. And people are going to AI right now and asking, who is the best agent in blank market, right? And there's a pathway for you to position yourself to be that recommended agent. These are the kind of opportunities that are being taught over here. And it's something I appreciate so much, because one thing I didn't like about where I was before was it felt like the training was being led by someone who was who was successful in a different time. And I'm talking like decades, and not adapting to what the new age was demanding. And right now, I mean, I feel like we're in this, I mean, even just like YouTube as a opportunity for realtors was such a foreign concept to me when I got into the industry in 2019. So I can't imagine what AI feels like for some people, where it's like, oh, it's this thing, but like I don't know how I can utilize it. These are the things that you and your team are actively pursuing and training your agents on, your partners on, to better their business. I just think it's such a different way of running the business. That's one thing that I truly appreciate about what you and your team do for us. It's keeping us relevant, keeping the training fresh. I can't tell you, if I sit into another freaking training where I'm being told about like how to do mailers again, like, oh my god, I'm gonna I'm gonna storm out of there. But like, how can I be more efficient with my time? How can I like that you said I'm using AI to do things that are going to position me either from a selectability and discoverability, like, is this going to make people want to actually work with me? Or from your side, to free up more time for me to focus on the things that AI cannot do for me. Because it will not replace Mike Sherrard. It's not going to make videos as good as you can. It's not going to service your clients the way that you can. But if you're doing all this administrative work, you're missing opportunities to do that in a better capacity. So I just love that you and your team are doing that for us. It's one of the many things that I love at the opportunities here to partner with us. Bring us home, man. We've got a few minutes left. Maybe an opportunity, maybe something that agents can do today that would benefit their business. And it doesn't matter if you're a new agent, if you're trying to scale, like, what does the opportunity ahead look like? Where do you see things going in it beyond 2026? Like, what's next, and how can agents get plugged into it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think what's going to happen, and you saw this in the early adoption of the social media era, is that you saw these brand new agents that would come in, be willing to put themselves on camera and take enormous amounts of market share from very experienced yet very complacent agents. And so they were willing to adapt. And it goes back to that common quote, it's either adapt or die, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. And so they adapted to the new way of consumer behavior and searchability and how people are engaging. And they crushed it. Well, this is that brand new wave. And one of the things I love is that all of us relate to the party when it came to pretty much every other platform. We miss Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like, none of us were early to that, right? But we're early to this. And so that's where it's the first time we ever have this crystal ball of saying, we know this is guaranteed to be the future. We are early as you could be right now. And you have an opportunity to capitalize on it and be that agent that, again, in the next 3 years, you can grow faster than the average agent did in 10. And that's going to come from, again, allocating all the things that sucked 80% of your time to be automated, to spend 100% of your time on doing the things you know you should be doing. You can create more content. You can build more connections. You can host more live events. Like, you could do all these human connection things 5 times more of it because you outsourced the 80% of things that were sucking all of your time. And most agents don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to hire. And so there's this unique opportunity now where if you didn't have a VA, if you couldn't afford these outsourcing, you had to do everything yourself. But now you could outsource all that for free. And so it's such a unique time that I encourage agents to look at as the golden years, the gravy train. This is where it all starts, is being able to say, okay, if we want to put our eggs in a couple baskets here, actually learning these tools in order to build systems to take care of the heavy lifting, getting on a platform like YouTube that creates the most leverage, the most compounding interest of your time in order to scale and build that brand while also becoming searchable. Because I think, Jordan, one of the things that people struggle with is this mentality of, well, I already know how to do this task, and it only takes me 10, 15, 30, 60 minutes to do it. So I'm just going to keep doing it because I don't want to spend the 10 hours to properly learn how to do it with AI. But here's what they're not accounting for, is the fact that that might only take an hour for you to do. But if you're doing that every week, multiple times a week, for years, that's 52 hours per year times years. You're eventually wasting 1,000+ hours on these activities. Where if you just took the 10 hours to learn how to automate it once, now you bought those 1,000 hours back to spend it on connections. And so there's this massive fear of slowing down, but sometimes you got to slow down to speed up. And sometimes you got to spend more time to do an activity once and never have to do it again, than take less time to just keep picking away at it yourself. And a lot of people struggle with that because they have this feeling and this mentality that if I'm not like pushing myself to grow with what I already know, then I'm slowing down, and I can't slow down, right? Because I got to keep growing. But all that you're doing is building a business that's hanging on by a thread. And so my encouragement, number one, get clarity on what you're committing to doing, right? If you have no business in an empty pipeline, one active, one passive form of prospecting, commit to it for 12 months, ignore literally everything else. Take some time to learn these platforms to be able to streamline your business and be able to create routines, because that's where a lot of agents get sucked in with their time, is they continue to have to start from scratch every time they're doing an activity. Every time they want to create short form, every one of they create long form, every time they're doing something, they're starting from scratch instead of just building a system that will do that scratch work for you and start to streamline it. And I think, again, as we talked about, the most important thing is going to be surrounding yourself with people that are just going to shorten the learning curve. Like, we've spent thousands of hours into this stuff, and we give it all away for everybody for free. So do you want to go spend the 1,000 hours yourself, or just go straight to the chase and partner with people that are going to keep you on top of what's working best now, right? Because as you said, things are constantly changing. Everybody's trying to keep up. But if you're the one trying to keep up while running your production business, it can be a lot. But again, everything is a choice. And you can choose to be in an environment where you have to learn it, you have to test it, you have to build it, you have to go through all the growing pains, learning pains, wasted money, time, energy, attention, and money. Or you can open your mind to different opportunities, different vehicles, and say, I could also just partner with people that will give all of that to me for free from day one. They will do the learning, they will do the testing, they will give it to me when it's ready, and then I just get to benefit from it. Like, when you start thinking about it like that, it's genuinely mind-blowing that people will be struggling, wanting to see a difference, but not willing to make a decision to open their mind up to a different opportunity. That makes no sense. And that's why, as we pull this together, I always like to say the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind. And by having a closed mind, I missed out on millions of dollars by having a closed mind. And my hope and prayer is that somebody watching doesn't, because we have both made those mistakes. And now you have the decision. And the decision for everybody is you are where you are right now based on your conscious choices. And if you would like a radically different life or your business to look a different way, that's one choice away. And everybody needs to remind themselves that everything is a choice.
Nailed it, man. Hey, thank you so much for an hour of absolute wisdom and insights. Guys, we're talking to one of the guys who's leading here in the entire industry. And like I said, you don't just become the fastest growing in 2025 organization by accident. There's a reason that we're growing. There's a reason that while other groups are starving, ours is thriving. And you heard it here. I mean, this is the mastermind behind it. This is the, in my opinion, the vehicle that's driving the car. If EXP is the vehicle, you're the driver. So I appreciate everything that you do for our group. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, if you got any wisdom from what you heard here today, please give it a like, leave a comment, let us know that it was encouraging for you here today. Share it with a realtor who may be struggling, who you thought of or would benefit from this conversation. And if you found yourself sitting there going, man, that sounds like me, that sounds like the change of environment, the kind of people I want to be around, the kind of resources that I want to obtain for my business, there is a link in the description. Like Mike said, you are possibly one call away, one Zoom meeting away from absolutely changing the trajectory of your business. Mike, I appreciate so much what you're doing for me and my business, for my team, and for sharing your wisdom here today.
100%. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you, brother. And for anybody listening, we look forward to having a conversation.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you in the next one.